So you're thinking about living and moving to Jacksonville, Florida? Well, in this video, I'm gonna break down all the top new construction neighborhoods located here in Jacksonville, why people are moving to them, and what you need to know as it pertains to where they are compared to everything else you're gonna do here in Jacksonville. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it now. All right, so before we get too far into this video, don't forget that as we're going through this, if you have any questions that I either you want to go deeper into for what I go over today, or if there's anything that you want to go over that I didn't go over today, you can call me, text me, email me. It's all going to be on the screen, or in the description of this video is going to be a link to my calendar where we can set the time to meet face to face or through Zoom to go over any and all questions you may have about some of these top neighborhoods here in Jacksonville when it comes to new construction and where people are moving to more than anywhere else. But overall for this video, the biggest thing to start off with is that this is going to be mainly about 4 main communities. These communities are going to be Rivertown, Silverleaf, Nocatee, and Seven Pines. These are typically the most desirable and also sometimes the newest communities here in the Jacksonville general area. Now, overall, there are other amazing communities as well, but these are the 4 that we're gonna really highlight in today's video. And what's really cool too, is if you wanna know more about the different models, the different floor plans that the builders have in these neighborhoods, on our channel, you have the ability to look at some of our past model home tours, which dive into the different floor plans and models for these communities themselves, and gives you kind of like a sneak peek of just what the builder can or will do for you, and also gives you an idea too about prices for them for these communities. So a lot of great information there. Obviously, if you're subscribed to our channel, you may have already seen them. If you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe. But let's go and get into it. And the first neighborhood we're going to focus on here is the Rivertown Master Plan Community. So the Rivertown Master Plan Community is a community that has about 16,000 homes, not all right now, but once they're all said and done. Currently, they're about a little over halfway through the community. And so they have about another 8,000 or so homes left. And this community is highly desirable due to its location. It is kind of tucked away, close to the river, hence the name Rivertown. But also the fact that there's multiple layers of building in there makes it desirable for a lot of different families. And the layers I reference are, again, if you're a first-time home buyer, they do have townhouses that are very affordable to get your foot in the door for the community, but also they do have homes in that $400,000 to $500,000 range as well. Now, if you're looking for your next home, you're looking to move up, get a bigger house, they have that as well. So again, homes between $600,000 and $800,000, $800,000 to $1 million, they have those as well, and some of those floor plans are absolutely amazing. But now let's say that you're looking for your last home, or at least a neighborhood that gives you more amenities, gives you more community events, things that you don't have to plan yourself. They have that as well because they do have a 55 and up community called Watersong located within Rivertown. So many different options to choose from across the board, which is why people do really like it. Now, the other thing too that people love is the amenities that they have. So they have currently 3 main amenity centers. Now, if you're a part of Watersong, you get a 4th one that's just for your community. And the amenity centers are very, very desirable, very much, well thought out with how they design them. And so you have the River Lodge, which is their newest one, which is actually located next to the brand new K-8 school. So Rivertown got so big that they actually had to build a school within the community just for the kids in the community. So not every neighborhood can say that. It's almost like having a private school that's really a public school that's really a private school, but a really cool concept across the board. So again, if you have kids and you're thinking about moving to the area, that's a great thing to be able to have, is that they can ride their bike. Technically, it's a golf cart community, so they could take the golf cart as well to the school, I'm sure. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on the restrictions or whatever the case may be. But even if you had to take them, you could take the golf cart or the car. But the cool part is they don't have to leave the confines of the community. But so you do have the River Lodge there. Has pool, has additional amenities as well. Then we have our River House, which is their main amenity center, which you can see here. We have the clubhouse, we have the fitness center, we have multiple pools, tennis courts, pickleball courts, basketball courts. There's a park here for the kids. And then you also have a third one down here, and this one's gonna have a pool as well. So you're gonna notice a lot of pools. And this one actually also doubles as a restaurant. So if you need to go somewhere for the night, you want to get out, with the kids, and you didn't want to go too far away from home, you have the restaurant right there to be able to go to. So again, really cool concept that we don't see with many communities, but Rivertown has that. Now I do have to mention Rivertown does have what we call CDD fees, or Community Development District fees. Those are going to be an additional special assessment tax that you do pay. Part of it will go away eventually because it's a bond, but part of it's for the maintenance of the community, so that part will never go away. If you want to go into more detail on that, we can always talk further about that. But for now, overall, it is an amazing community. It does empty out into Longleaf Pine Parkway as well as State Road 13. But as you can see here, they are going to have a third entryway, or main entryway at some point, off of Greenbrier Road, which doubles as 210. State Road 210, which is a thoroughfare to cut across to I-95. So overall, very many different options to get in and out of the community. But again, you probably want to know more, not just about the community, but also what's around the community. And Rivertown for a while was kind of off on its own. Now here's obviously some pictures of their many centers, just for reference. But the thing about Rivertown is the infrastructure has started to get better as far as having other options to go to, but it can still sometimes be a little bit further away than you may or may not like. So just for a couple reference points, from Rivertown, we do have here the Publix, which is typically the the grocery store of choice here for most people in Jacksonville. But Publix is about 10 minutes away. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less, depending where you're at in the community. But overall, it gives you a good idea of just, drive time, how long it would take to get to Publix. Now at the Publix, there's also some gas stations, some small restaurants, some other things like that. They're constantly adding on to the commercial over here. But that's definitely gonna be your closest, not amenities, but closest places to go to for food, restaurants, stuff like that. Then, we're gonna now dive into how long it would take to get to Durham Pavilion. Now, Durham Pavilion is more of like a town center, so to speak. So that's where you're gonna have a lot of your big box brands like Home Depot, Walmart. There is a Publix there as well. There's other restaurants, other shops there as well. And that's gonna put us about, currently about 25 minutes or so away from Rivertown. So again, good to highlight, because at the end of the day, you really do wanna know exactly what your drive time is gonna be like to get from point A to point B, because Jacksonville is such a large city. So you're about 20-25 minutes away from the Durham Pavilion. The next one's gonna be our St. John's Town Center. Now, St. John's Town Center, that is like really truly the hub of Jacksonville. It has really become like the place to go. It also has become the place not to go during the holidays if you're trying to go shopping, because it does get very busy, very clustered, but they obviously do have a lot of amazing attraction there. And it's why people constantly go there, whether if you want to go play Topgolf or go do some indoor skydiving, or if you want to go to some restaurants, shops, great place to go to. That's going to be about 35 minutes away from Rivertown. Now let's say you want to go to the beach. Now the beach, for instance, is going to be a little bit further away. Now this could be Jack's Beach. There are slightly closer beaches, but for this video, we're going to focus on these main locations for reference. And Jack's Beach is going to put you about 45 minutes or so away from Rivertown. So realistically, if you want to immerse yourself in the beach lifestyle, Rivertown may not necessarily be the place for you, because it is a 45-minute drive. Now, depending on where you're coming from, that might not be a big deal, but in this case, it's something to definitely take into account when determining which neighborhood to focus on for your home search. And then lastly, what's the drive time to the airport? Because again, we all like to travel, some more than others. In this case, the airport drive time is about just around an hour, 55 minutes to an hour. So again, the nice thing about it is, you do have mainly highway driving with it. So realistically, it is one of those things that you do have pretty much a straight shot once you get on the highway to get up there. So that's really about it for Rivertown. Now let's go ahead and dive into Silverleaf and discuss Silverleaf next. All right, on to the next one. So obviously now we've discussed a lot about Rivertown, where it's located, what's around it. The builder in there is gonna be Mattamy Homes for the majority of the community. There is also a small section that's Toll Brothers, but overall, you are kind of stuck with just Mattamy over there. And now we're gonna get to the community that everyone absolutely tends to love. It's the place to be. It's really where everyone says, okay, if I'm moving to Northeast Florida, that's where I'm going. And if for some reason that they have to go somewhere else, then maybe it's Rivertown, maybe it's Silverleaf, maybe it's Seven Pines. But at the end of the day, this is always, almost always, priority number one for people when they're moving to and living here in Jacksonville. So overall, with this community of Nocatee, it is another master plan community. It's another community that also does have that CUD fee, so that additional tax to live in there, but you get amenities for it. So Nocatee was developed by the Park Group, which is a development group located here in Northeast Florida that does a very good job with their communities. And the way they designed this is they really space everything out nicely to where most of it's spread out. Most homes are going to back up to preserve or to lakes. Very rarely do you find too many homes that back up to other homes unless you're more in that Nocatee Town Center area, as you'll see up here. And it gives you a good mixture of homes. So whereas the last community had homes that were 400,000 and townhouses that were below that, here in Nocatee, your starting price point is going to typically be closer to that $500,000 to $600,000 price point. Occasionally, you may find something that's under $5, but normally $5 to $6 is the starting point. But with Nocatee, you do have the ability to go to that $1 million to $2 million range. And there are some homes in some neighborhoods within Nocatee that actually will push past that $3 million range if they are on the water, such as one community that's located here that is on the Intercoastal Waterway. So Nocatee does span quite a good sized distance, but overall does have a lot to offer as well. So with the amenities you get here, you get some smaller amenity centers within each community. So sometimes it may be a pool, sometimes it may be a park, stuff like that. And everything is golf cart accessible. So Nocatee was like the first place here that was truly a golf cart community. So a lot of people who live here in Nocatee tend to have golf carts. So if you're gonna be living in Nocatee, just put down your bucket list of things that you're gonna need to get is a golf cart. But ultimately, the amenities that people tend to really gravitate towards, it's going to be their spray park, which is more for the kids, and their splash park, which is for more the older kids or adults, across the board. So with the spray park, it's going to be more, smaller pools, stuff like that. The splash park is going to have our larger pools. It's going to have our lazy river. It's going to actually have a zip line in it, which is really cool. And then with around it too, you do get pickleball courts, you get tennis courts. They do have an open field that they tend to have. They host large gatherings for the community. So really just very community-based, lifestyle-based neighborhood across the board. So really it's one of the reasons why people just absolutely love Nocatee. Now Nocatee is going to also give you multiple builders to choose from. So whereas some of these neighborhoods may only give you one or two, Nocatee does give you many. So you have David Weekley, you have ICI, you have Toll Brothers, you have Riverside, you have Providence, just to name a handful that are in there, and there are a couple others as well. So it really does give you the ability to kind of see, okay, what floor plan, what builder makes the most sense for me and my family. And here's the thing too, Nocatee's almost finished. They're less than 10% away from being done with their community. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, okay, I can wait a little bit for rates to come down or prices to come down, well, one, that may or may not happen in time. But two, or at all in some regards, especially for a neighbor like Nocatee. But two, again, if you wait too long and you want to buy new construction, well, Nocatee may no longer be an option for you if that's the route you want to go, because they may be out of new construction sooner rather than later. So overall though, people do love it too for its location. You do have a Publix within Nocatee, again, referencing kind of the grocery store of a choice for people. You do also have restaurants, shops within Nocatee. So to really put it on a map, first thing we're going to look at again is some of the amenities that we just discussed. So again, you have your pools, your slides for the pool, your zip line in there, multiple pools throughout. So it really does give you quite a bit to choose from there for the kids to be able to have something to do. In addition, again, when we're talking drive time, I'm going to use Coastal Oaks, which is a community that is kind of smack dab in the middle of Nocatee, as an example, or as a reference point. But there's many different places within Nocatee you could choose from for the purposes of figuring out location within the community and drive time to other things. So first thing we're going to point out is the Publix. So from Coastal Oaks, you're about 10 minutes away from the Publix. So some communities will be closer within Nocatee, some will be farther. But again, 10 minutes, especially on a golf cart, is pretty manageable. And what's really cool is they do have golf cart parking as well. So just kind of another perk of living there. But overall, that's about where you're at there. And again, if you have any questions as we're going through this, feel free. You can call me at any time to go over it and to figure out again, where you should be looking for a home here in Nocatee. Now, the next thing is going to be Durban Pavilion. Now, Durban Pavilion, just like Rivertown, is about 25 minutes or so away. So again, what we're seeing here is even though the location's closer to the intercoastal into the ocean versus Rivertown being closer to the river, surprisingly, they're both about the same distance from some of these major places that you would probably want to go to for restaurants, shops, stuff like that, for everyday living. So again, it's about 25 minutes away from Durban Pavilion, just similar to the last one. Next up is going to be the St. John's Town Center, which is about 30 minutes to 35 minutes away. So again, about the same time. And then from there, we're going to look at the beaches. So with the beaches here, this is where you will actually see a little bit of a quicker drive time. Now, it may not show it here on the map because it's still going to put us about 45 minutes away from Jacksonville Beach. But the thing about it is, that's a reference point for this video. But you do have Michler's Beach, which is much, much closer. It's still public beach in St. Johns County. So again, definitely probably less than half the time it take to get to Jack's Beach, but it does give you some different options to choose from. Overall though, worst case, you are about 45 minutes away. So again, similar to Rivertown in that sense. And then lastly, as far as getting to the airport, about the same as the world there. So we're about an hour away from the airport, which for most places here in Jacksonville, you're gonna be about 30 to 45 minutes to an hour for the airport for areas that you're probably, looking in for new construction, unless you're gonna live more in the north side of Jacksonville, closer to the airport, because there is new construction out there as well. That's just not gonna be the focus of today's video. So again, that kind of breaks down Nocatee. Now let's go ahead and talk about the next master plan community, which is actually cool because this one's still St. Johns County, but what's cool about it is the fact that there's no CD fees. So let's get into that one now. All right, the next community, as I just mentioned, is the Silverleaf community. This is the newest master plan community that we have here in St. Johns County, again, still part of Jacksonville. And the thing that differentiates Silverleaf from the last two is that you don't have the CD fees, that additional tax that you see in a community like Rivertown or a community like Nocatee. So sometimes people look at that and they say, oh, well, okay, does that mean I get less than I would get in one of those communities? And, yes and no, it's just different. But Silverleaf will still have multiple amenity centers, just like these other two communities had, as well as some of these neighborhoods within the master plan community of Silverleaf will have their own individual amenities as well. So something to definitely take into account when deciding between neighborhood is definitely that CD fee. It does help you on a monthly payment to not have to worry about that. But on the other side, some of these neighborhoods in Silverleaf do sometimes have slightly higher HOA fees that you may not necessarily see in a Rivertown or in a Nocatee. So sometimes it almost evens out a little bit, but typically it's not going to be as high on a monthly payment with those HOA fees as it would be with the CD fees with the communities like Nocatee or Rivertown. Now, as far as Silverleaf, it is smack dab in the middle of St. Johns County. So as you can see here, it does span probably the largest distance out of the main communities that we're talking about today. And Silverleaf is going to give you multiple builders. So just like Nocatee, Silverleaf is going to give you builders like ICI Homes. It's going to give you Mastercraft Homes. It's going to give you Ashley Homes, Riverside. Has DR Horn. It does have Dream Finders. So many different David Weekley. I could keep naming them. Lennar. Probably the biggest diversity of builders for the community. And so because of that, they are going to have homes that range anywhere from 400 to 500 up to multi-million. They're also going to have homes that are some townhouses that are going to be below that in that high 2s to low 3s range, or at least somewhere in the 300s in general across the board. So definitely has a large diversity of homes, large diversity of builders, and large diversity of pricing. Now, here's the thing about Silverleaf. They are probably, like I said, the newest, Now they're also going to probably be the biggest. Silverleaf was originally supposed to be about 10,000 homes, and now it's estimated, talking with one of the builders that is building in there, that it could go as far as being closer to 40,000 homes when it's all said and done. So the thing about Silverleaf to take into account, that's really the case with all these master plan communities, is when you buy in there, like, you're not necessarily buying just Silverleaf. You're also buying in the neighborhood within Silverleaf. So obviously, like for instance, there's a neighborhood called Newbrook. You know, when you're living in Newbrook, you're gonna probably tell people, oh yeah, I live in Newbrook, it's a community or it's a neighborhood in Silverleaf. So it's not like, you know, everyone's in the same overall community. You're more so gonna be within a sub-community within the overall master plan community. But as you can see here, you know, we do have currently the first main amenity center. Now this amenity center is pretty massive, and it's gonna give you multiple tennis courts, multiple pickleball courts, you know, beautiful pool, you know, lap pool, you know, little water park, little playground, you know, a lot of things there to really like across the board. That does match up with some of the stuff that we've seen in the other two communities as well. Now they will be adding more amenities as well, but currently they're just so new that that's the only one that's finished as of the recording of this video. Overall, it is a community that is still kind of one of those where some people are still, you know, wondering how's it going to develop over time. You know, what's all going to go there from the commercial side with restaurants, shops, stuff like that. You know, that currently they are finishing up a Publix within Silverleaf, so it's actually going to be here like smack dab in the middle of Silverleaf, just to name one point. But what's really cool about Silverleaf is that you actually have the ability to go north to 210, you know, State Road 210 to get to I-95. You can go south to US or State Road 16, which you can take that to also get to 95 as well, and it does pop you out close to the outlet malls. So you do have different routes you can go there, but you also will have the new highway coming through there, that it is a toll highway, but overall if you pay the toll, you can use it to get to 95. So it will be much more of a quicker shot to be able to get through to the highway than going to 210 or down to US 16 or State Road 16. So different options there across the board. Now what people do love about it more than anything else that differentiates them than the others is that lack of the CDD fee. Other than that, you know, overall the floor plans are going to be similar to what you'll see in Nocatee. The builders will be similar to Nocatee. Pricing will probably be a little bit better than Nocatee. Obviously the Nocatee is almost finished. But overall, you know, it is very comparable to, say, Nocatee or even maybe like a Rivertown due to how they built it up and what they're doing with it. But it is a community that if you are looking to buy and maybe even sell within the next 5 years, you may want to really consider Silverleaf as maybe an area to stay away from, only because you may be competing with the builder down the road. And ultimately, for a neighbor like Nocatee, you know, if you were to buy and sell within 5 years, there won't be any new construction going on. So, you know, when you're trying to get the best price possible and builders are offering additional incentives that you can't offer, it could affect your pricing, you know, when you do go to sell. So a neighbor like Silverleaf, something to take into account. Now, as far as for Silverleaf in general, you know, the amenities, as you can see here, there's a couple pictures here, you know, that you can just get an idea of what there is to offer. Really just beautiful across the board. You know, obviously people do love the amenities there as well. They even have a 3D tour, you know, to be able to kind of like walk through it. So if you want a link to that, reach out to me. But just to put in perspective, like we've done the last two, you know, Silverleaf is going to be about 8 minutes away from the closest Publix currently. Now, as I mentioned, there will be one within the community, and we are using more of the southern part of Silverleaf, so there's definitely areas further up we could have used. But overall, 8 minutes away from Publix, so we're doing a little better there than the other two communities. Now let's see how we compare for Durban Pavilion. The other two are 25 minutes. Here we are at Silverleaf, we're at 14 minutes. So it puts you a lot closer to the Durban Pavilion, which again is an area where you'll probably spend a lot of your time for shopping, restaurants, meeting up with friends and family across the board. Now, next up, let's go ahead and see how it compares to for the St. John's Town Center. So for St. John's Town Center, we're about 27 to 3 minutes away, so slightly quicker, but about almost the same time as we saw with Rivertown and also with Nocatee. Next is going to be the beaches. So the beaches, slightly quicker again, about 30, 35, 40 minutes rather than 40, 45. So the beach is, again, a little bit quicker on that side of things, but realistically, you still have to want budget, if you're gonna be going up there. So with that being said, all these communities that we discussed so far, if you wanna be closer to the beach, you may wanna just hold up 1 second, because when we get to Seven Pines, you'll see that it's definitely much more attractive for going to the beach, distance-wise. Then lastly, the airport. So the airport, surprisingly, or not so much surprisingly, we're about 50 minutes or so from the airport. So we did shorten that about 10 minutes from Rivertown, which is more located closer inshore, but also 10 minutes closer than Nocatee, which is closer to the beaches, so to speak. And the reason why it's a 10-minute quicker drive isn't necessarily because of those things. It's just because that it's more centered around major roads that do move a little bit quicker. So that way you can, again, get to the highway a little bit quicker, get to the airport a little bit quicker. So across the board, that does play a large role in it when living in Silverleaf versus the other communities, because you will be a little bit of a quicker drive to get to those places. But with that being said, we still have one more community to focus on. Now this one's gonna be a little different. It's gonna be in Duval County. So more so Jacksonville, but still they're all Jacksonville. And this one is very interesting because it's not the same size as the others. It's gonna be much, much smaller to some degree, a little more boutique in a sense. So let's go ahead and now dive into that one right now, which is gonna be Seven Pines. All right, so now the reason that I said what I said about Seven Pines is because it is a little different. It does have that CUD fee, just like we saw in Nocatee and Rivertown. But realistically, what makes it different is that it's very much more local to a lot of the places that you're gonna wanna probably go to while you're living here in Jacksonville. Because a lot of times, even if you live in St. Johns County, a lot of events tend to happen in Duval County. If you're gonna go see the Jags game, which again, that was not one of the locations we looked at, going downtown, it does put you closer to the Jaguar Stadium, the Jumbo Shrimp for the baseball stadium, Jacksonville Icemen, concerts are gonna be downtown or at the beach. So it's one of those things that's what really drives people to come to Duval County, but typically people tend to choose more to stay in St. John's for their home, and they're okay with the longer drive. But that's where Seven Pines comes in, because it kind of gives you best of both worlds. Now, Seven Pines, the school system there is still really good, probably a step down compared to the St. Johns County schools. You do see a lot of times people who live in this area may send their kids more so to private schools such as Providence, Bishop Kenny, even sometimes Bowles. So it's one of those things that you do see a little bit of a transition there versus St. John's, which a lot of times with St. Johns County, so Rivertown, Silverleaf, Nocatee, the public schools are typically where they send their kids. So a little bit of difference there. But as we get into it with with Seven Pines, Seven Pines has two main builders currently, and that's going to be David Weekley Homes and ICI Homes. So Seven Pines does follow a similar trend to Rivertown in the sense that you only have a couple builders to choose from. But ultimately, it is a very quaint little community in here. It's not going to be nearly as big as the others, and they are very early on in their process as well, so there will still be quite a bit of commercial development that's done within Seven Pines. As you can see here now, because it is so new, the amenity center does not look like it's finished yet, but it has been finished. So again, you're gonna have the pool, you're gonna have additional clubhouse. I do believe they will be adding on pickleball courts and tennis courts at some point. But overall, as you can see here, it's a much smaller community. Now, I highly advise you for any of these communities, again, to check out our model home tours. It will probably show up to at the end of this video to see some of these floor plans that these builders have in there, to just see just what you could do with a home in that community with the builder, and also what that price looks like, because it's going to be different for each one of these communities across the board. Some of these builders have some amazing floor plans that, it doesn't matter what community they're in, they offer. And those are floor plans sometimes you may want to really consider. Because again, so far, 4 communities, we do have a common theme of 3 of the 4, you have David Weekley and you have ICI Homes. So overall, you do have a lot of different options, but there are 2 consistent ones throughout the majority of the communities. Now, as far as the amenities for Seven Pines, here's some additional pictures showing them. They probably are a little lacking right this second compared to the other 3 communities that we discussed. And part of that is they are still a very new community, and they're going to be a much smaller community, so they're not going to have as much as those communities did. But overall, still really good communities across the board, good amenities across the board, and really has a really cool feel because you actually go over a bridge to get to it. So it really does give you just a nice feel overall. Because again, Seven Pines, I'm a little partial. I'm a Duval County kid myself. The whole point behind the name is that there were 7 brothers who owned that land. And it used to be a pine farm that the family owned. And so when the 7 brothers sold it off to be developed for people like yourself to eventually buy a home in, they decided to name it Seven Pines after the 7 brothers. So cool little story there. Realistically, I like, I'm a big family person myself. So I like when, families incorporate into stuff like that. So overall, just great across the board. As far as distance to get to some of these same items that we've already discussed, again, here you'll see we're about 9 minutes away from Publix. So comparable, so to speak, to like a Silverleaf. Eventually they may actually have their own Publix inside Seven Pines. That's one thing you gotta keep a lookout for. But currently, again, 9 minutes is not bad. It's a straight shot, super easy to get to. So definitely not bad there. Now the next one comes with a caveat. The next one's gonna be Durham Pavilion. And really the reason why there's a caveat here is because when you're living in Seven Pines, you're probably gonna go to the St. John's Town Center before you're gonna go to Durham Pavilion. So I did put this on here just to show as a reference point comparing the other 3 to this one. But this one is about 15 to 20 minutes away from Seven Pines. But as I mentioned, the reason why it's a caveat is because you are only 10 minutes away, and obviously this has some traffic currently, but you are only 10 minutes away from the St. John's Town Center. So the St. John's Town Center is typically the place to go, the place that people do gravitate towards. Durham Pavilion tends to run number 2, and it's more for the St. John's County residents. So overall, to be 10 minutes away from there is massive, and that is one of the reasons why people absolutely love Seven Pines, is how close it is to the St. John's Town Center. Then the next step's gonna be our beaches. So as you can see here with the beach, right now we're looking at about a 20-minute drive, so we cut that drive time in half from the other 3 communities. And ultimately, there is quicker places you can go. Like obviously, this is gonna take you up to more what we call Atlantic Beach Town Center over there next to the beach. But obviously, you're probably even closer than that. You're probably really 10 minutes away to get to the closest public beach access. So to put that in perspective, again, that definitely is going to be much quicker than any of the other communities we've discussed on this video. Then lastly, again, you're gonna see something quicker here as well, which is the airport. So the airport, again, we've now cut that down to 30 minutes to get to the airport from Seven Pines. So if you are someone who wants to be close to the beach, but also travels a lot for work, Seven Pines may be the community for you. And even though Seven Pines is still early on in its development, kind of like Silverleaf is, because they're not gonna be as big, if your plan is to buy and then sell within the next 5 years, you're probably not as concerned about the builder incentives that you may be competing with as you are with a neighborhood like Silverleaf. So really that kind of is really a good starting point to end on this video. Realistically, these are 4 of the top and best communities here in Jacksonville at this time for new construction. It's really where a lot of people I talk to want to be, is one of those 4 communities. And again, our team has a lot of experience in Rivertown, Silverleaf, Seven Pines, and Nocatee. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me so I can help answer those questions you have, because ultimately our goal for you is to make sure that when you do move here to Jacksonville, that the community you choose, the builder you choose, the floor plan you choose fits you and your family's wants and needs now and into the future. So lastly, I'll say it one more time. At the end of this video, you will see some additional links to additional model home tours that we have done on this channel. I would highly advise you check those out. Some of them are some amazing homes in these communities we discussed today. And ultimately, we'd love to see what your thoughts are on those. And if you have any comments too on this video, drop them in the comment section. And with that, I'll see you guys again on the next one.